Welcome back to Truth Bomber TV. We're talking about repeat patterns today and if there really is time. What do you guys think? I don't really think there is time because I think most of us are just continuing to do the same things over and over and continuing to attract the same people, life situations, careers, all these things back to us according to what's going on inside of us. So let's do some self-discovery. Think about someone you know who has multiple life situations or relationships that are all the same. Perhaps things have changed some way, like it's a different person that they're married to, or it's a different job, but they have the same underlying issues over and over and over again. It's like listening to a broken record. You can know exactly what they're going to say and how it's going to come out. And we are all this way. We all have repeat patterns. We all, when we spiritually awaken, are like, wow, I'm still living out some issues with my parents that I have never dealt with, or I'm still having the same dysfunctional relationship with money I always had. That is a key point in our spiritual awakening when we can start to see that there is no time and that we're all just repeating patterns until we get to the point where we say we have had enough. We're ready to do our self-work. We're ready to work through our issues. So I'm going to use an example of someone I know and dearly love. Now, he grew up, started to love rodeoing, riding bucking horses. He loved to drive around to these rodeos, get out, you do your 8-second ride, hopefully, and then you get in your van and drive to the next rodeo. This is what he had. 1995 Ford Aerostar. At the same time, his dad was a firewood cutter, so he stacked and hauled firewood and delivered it and stacked it in the yard for people, and that was his job while going to school. Now, the Fry's Food and Drug Store picture. This is because his mom worked at Fry's, and she was a bookkeeper. So during this time, mom took care of him, cooked, cleaned up after him, and now fast forward, he's in his 40s, and where has life led him? He ended up getting a job at Pepsi, where for a while, for several years, he was stacking Pepsi, which isn't a whole lot different than stacking firewood. He moved up in the company and got a job where he works on service tech issues. If you have a fountain that's broken at your gas station or a vending machine issue, he has a van he drives, gets there, fix the issue, get back in your van, and drive away. So now he's married. Guess where his wife works? His wife works at Fry's Food and Drug and is a secretary. And guess what she does? She cooks and cleans up after him, much like his mother did. So we can see in his life that yes, there are very big similarities to where it appears that there really is no time. Now, the relationship with his mom and the relationship with his wife, of course, they are different, but there's probably underlying issues that are the same. Or there's probably ways that the universe is trying to bring him a mirror in order for him to do self-work. So it's important to look at all of these different elements of our lives and start figuring out, how is this about me, since we know nothing is random. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my life and how there are things in it where I've seen repeat patterns. So I've had 2 marriages. The first husband was a horse trainer. And also, when I first met him, he started going to helicopter pilot school. Now, my second husband does a lot of different jobs, but he also is very into dogs and does dog training. And he also now is going to school to be a helicopter pilot. We just went to my oldest daughter's wedding, the oldest daughter that I had with the first husband. So now, the first husband did not finish helicopter school. He only started it. And so now he gets to see the second husband, who has been doing helicopter school, and reminding him of something that he did not complete. And that's how we are all these little fragmented pieces of our unhealed parts, and how these little life situations bring us together. Now, I've never really been good at hair and makeup. So my first husband marries someone who is very good at hair and makeup. She's beautiful. And she did my my daughters that I have with the second husband, she did their hair for the wedding. But she's reminding me of something that I'm not very good at. And if I was still full of insecurities and soul wounds, then I wouldn't recognize how these things are all happening that seem to be coincidence, but they're not. But now I've evolved to where I am deeply um, evolved in my soul work, I would say, to where I can see these reflections and not take them as insecurities and weaknesses anymore because I have evolved through them. So that's how different life situations all line up. And it appears random, but it's not. Also, I just happen to always have been in fitness, and his wife now is heavier than I am. Well, if she has issues about her weight and we come and I don't have weight issues, then that may mirror back some trauma for her, unless she's evolved in her deep self love of her imperfections and things like that. So, all of these little games and things that happen are always mirroring back to us some sort of message, some sort of way we need to work on ourselves. So when you start seeing and questioning your patterns, this is when you get to evolving. It's so awesome because you really realize that you are not any, you have not spiritually developed over a child. A lot of things you see in your relationships that keep repeating over and over and over may even become from a parent-child relationship. Like, oh, I recognize this from something with my mother or father that just keeps coming back to me. So once we start looking at our own lives and seeing that everything here is just a mirror, there is no time, we start to go, okay, this is where I haven't done something in my life I need to do in order to become the highest version of myself, to work through an insecurity or an imbalance or somewhere I made judgments. This is how we end our dysfunctional relationship with time, period. Because there really is only the now. But what's in the now is definitely showing us all these different dysfunctional patterns in relationships and imbalances if there's negative emotions attached to it. Meaning, if you fall into negative emotions about something, it's something you haven't learned and you need to do the personal work. So Dolores Cannon says, I have come to the conclusion that when people start asking questions and want to learn more, they have probably gone through most of their lessons and are on their way to graduation. Remember, many of these lessons can be worked out in one lifetime. So, guess what? If you are starting to see that your relationships and patterns and dysfunctional unhealed traumas just keep repeating and repeating and repeating over and over and over, then you have really gotten to a very cool space in your relationship with your personal evolution. And this is where you can become your highest version of yourself. And this is where you can say, okay, I'm tired of being in this negative pattern and I want to get out. And sometimes it involves with things that remind you of things you hate about yourself. So if I hated the fact that I'm not naturally good at makeup and hair, and I see the ex-husband with his wife who's really good at hair and makeup, it could remind me of something I hate about myself or I haven't fallen into a deep emotional balance about. Or it could be somewhere I can't let go. For example, the first husband being a horse trainer, the second husband being a dog trainer, both of them leaving animals in cages. And I hate seeing animals in cages because I feel like it's unfair and I am an empath. But until I work through letting go of other people's journeys and trying to control, fix, and heal and solve all these problems, I just keep being stuck in the pattern where I have to face it head on. So there's all kinds of little ways that these things can happen. Or in the example of the Fry's, mom is a Fry's employee, wife's a Fry's employee, both of them cook and clean. Both of these women are highly ambitious, motivated, always going type personalities. Whereas the guy in that situation is more lower energy, rather sit around and watch movies. So each partner could take some of the other one in order to become balanced, where you're not always having to be on the go, but you also don't always want to lay on the couch and watch movies. You want to balance this harmony of activity and rest. So, sounds a lot easier than it is. But once you start working through these issues and you realize, okay, I'm just going to keep doing this until I get out of it and I figure out what I'm supposed to learn, that's where our relationships and things come to us and perfect harmony, unconditional love, bliss. That's when, if you have a toxic relationship with yourself, then you attract people who are toxic to you. All of these different patterns going on all the time. So I hope that's helped you to see and look at your life in different ways and start trying to break this down, because the sooner we can come into the highest version of ourselves, this ends the necessity of time, and it ends the necessity of thinking that we are in this uncontrollable world. We're like, oh, this is a hologram. Because once you evolve through all this stuff, then we get to complete enlightenment. So thanks for watching. I hope you have a great Wednesday.